state, and since No Child Left Behind was instituted, because it required schools to be accountable and to answer for their actions. I do think, though, that if I were to go to Washington and cut a program, the Federal Education Department would be one of the first departments that I would cut, because I don't believe the federal government has a role in the education of our kids here in Michigan. In terms of Race to the Top, I am not a fan of Race to the Top, but I happily used that program to get some of the most stringent reforms in Michigan education policy that this state has ever seen. It's amazing to me what maneuvers Democrats will do to get $400 million in federal money when it's not even guaranteed. And so we use that as a leverage point to get some very strict reforms that includes pay teachers merit pay, tenure reform, closing down failing schools, expanding school choice in Michigan, and expanding the number of high-performing charter schools statewide. So I don't support Race to the Top, but I was happy to use the dollars that were available for Race to the Top to leverage some good reforms.
Okay, we're going to have a second round unless everybody passes, so I'll start this time with Mr. Remerson.
Well, you know what, I don't mind passing on that because I was going to pass anyway.
Well, can I skip you, Mr. Larson?
Yeah, you know what, I'm used to it.
You're up next.
You know, we'll let go with some of my counterparts that set up here over the past many months. I've got to know all these fine gentlemen, and we're all in it for the good of the country. And, you know, I've learned a lot about everybody. But I think at the end of the day, what's important is the question being asked by you, the electorate. I can guarantee you one thing: not a single man up here is going to vote for either me or their counterparts. So it's important for you to ask the questions and know where we stand, because we're providing for your votes.
Now, Remerson.
Are we doing another round?
Another round.
Okay. Just question for realizing that you as well regret your vote on the Michigan business tax, and we disavowed here today.
I appreciate the opportunity to also put that back on you while you continue to distort what has happened. As was laid out, the replacement of the single business tax was very different than what we have now. And what happened now is there was a 22% surcharge that was added to it, which turned that very questionable, challenging decision that we all had to make. I had to go back and talk to the manufacturers in my district and the interim member of the 90th district, southern part of Ottawa County. Agricultural, tourism, and manufacturing, those three things dominate that. Michigan Manufacturers Association, Michigan Bankers Association, the realtors, the contractors. There was a tremendous number of people that said, we've got to have some stability in this. We know that it needs to get fixed. Please go vote for this to make sure that we have that. What happened then is the Department of Treasury, every single time it had an opportunity to make a decision, either in favor of the taxpayer or in favor of more revenue for the state, went for more revenue for the state. I had a very interesting opportunity. I had a second bite at the apple. And that second bite at the apple, I said, excuse me, Mom, and my son Garrett, but hell no. No way are we going to do this. Unfortunately, that was not the view of the state Senate, and they did pass that surcharge in addition to the $1.5 billion tax increase, which I voted no on all of that. So repeatedly, I had over 700 opportunities in my 6 years in Lansing to vote no on tax increases, and I did every time.
Hello, my name is Dave Fisher, and I'm your Muskegon County Drain Commissioner. And we're here today at the Muskegon County Wastewater Management Facility. The Muskegon County Wastewater Management Facility treats over 12 million gallons a day of waste from our cities and townships that have public sewer services. The Muskegon County Board of Public Works is responsible for the rates, the operation, and the maintenance of this system. As the Drain Commissioner, I am a statutory member of the Public Works Board and have to participate in the decision-making along with 9 other members of this board. I would like to continue as the Muskegon County Drain Commissioner so that I can be responsive to the local unit's needs and desires relative to the waste treatment, the cost of doing business, and to continue to work towards creation of jobs and economic development in Muskegon County.
Hi, I'm State Representative Mary Valentine, and I'm running for State Senate in the 34th District. Of course, the most important thing we can do is to bring jobs into Muskegon, bring in the good-paying jobs. I've been working for that in Lansing. I've worked to bring in the 4-2 battery cell company, which should bring in 750 good-paying jobs. But that's not enough. We need to strengthen our small businesses by making sure they have capital available when they want to expand. And of course, it is critical for us to educate our students. They need a first-rate, top-notch, 21st century education if they're going to compete in this world. And while we're transitioning into this new Michigan, we all agree it is important to take care of this beautiful, beautiful lake that you see behind me. We need to protect it from the water bottlers and the invasive species. And of course, we never want to wake up some morning and see the mess in this lake that we now see in the Gulf of Mexico. I ran for office because I thought Lansing needed a stronger voice for everyday people, and I would love to be your voice in the State Senate.
I have a question for my friend Jay Riemersma. In your comments a few minutes ago, you referred to a hope for a federal amendment to the federal constitution to cap federal spending at 20%. There's a two-part question to this. The first part is that's going to take a long time for that to happen, if it ever happens. So I'd like to know what areas of federal spending right now you are in favor of in terms of number 1, number 2, number 3, that you are in favor of cutting. And secondly, if there were to be a 20% cap, and we were to have an incident such as 9/11 or a major international catastrophe, and there was a need for additional federal spending on an emergency basis, how would you arrange that to happen?
It's a great question, Field, and actually that's part of the legislation as a package that Congressman Pence is actually positioning itself to advance in Washington, D.C. as we speak right now. That federal cap on 20%, right now we're running around 24.7%, and in the coming decades we're going to be closer to 40%. Now I would argue the federal government spending $4 of every 10 that we see in terms of what's happening in our country is not the right approach, and I think we can all agree on that. So the question is, how do you get there, and specifically, what areas do you cut? I think you need to take a look at all the areas. The top 3 priorities are education, Department of Education. You know, we have to look at right now, since 1960, inflation-adjusted numbers, back then we spent $2,700 per pupil. Right now it's closer to $10,000. We've got to ask the question, what kind of ROI have we seen over the last several years? Department of Transportation, and clearly the Department of Energy has got to be up there as places that you would look to reform and cut. Because let's face it, you know, the Department of Energy was established to lessen our dependence on foreign oil, and we've seen nothing but the opposite. So those are specific areas.
Senator Pence?
Yes.
Senator Pence passes. Mr. Heisinger?
Yes. We need their questions.
Mr. Larson?
You know what, I do have one question for my friend, Mr. Chabelle. Out of your years of police work, did you ever pinch any dirty politicians? And if so, would you use those same skills that you were making to D.C.?
That's why I want to take my handcuffs to Washington, D.C. Since 1981, I've been dealing with liars, cheats, crooks, and thieves. What do you think's in Washington? Thanks, sir.
What part of the body did you hit? Mr. Cooper?
I'll pass.
All right. All right. The next part of this forum is for me to ask questions that were submitted by the audience, and you'll each have a chance to answer them. let's see, how much are we supposed to give?